Season 2 of the 2024 Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Series continues tonight with its second round at Homestead-Miami Speedway and a return to the full infield track. Its tight technical layout, combined with the surface being a serious tire eater, makes this track a wonderful test of a driver's feel for the subtleties of lower speed mechanical grip. Plus, much of the track is lined with concrete barriers that can seriously punish even minor mistakes. Yet somehow, the combatants of this series always seem to master it and turn it into a nail-biting brawl betwixt the walls. Hi all, I'm Greg Kramer, and with me as always is Kyle Heyer. And Kyle, I think that we've sort of discovered in the 4 seasons that have led up to this one, since our first one in 2023, that our drivers seem to be able to handle pretty much any track that can get thrown at them.
Hi, Greg. We've thrown a lot at the drivers the last couple of seasons, and of course, and different track layouts, different racetracks, different scales of racetracks between Lime Rock and Daytona, a little bit of everything. But this is one track that the drivers have lots of experience at. They've been here in a couple different configurations. One that skips the infield section in NASCAR turns 3 and 4, and of course, the high banked fast section. But of course, this is going to be fun because we're back at the configuration that does have that chicane at the tail end of the lap. So that should be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, it's interesting too to me that when we run that other one, what they call a road course B, that uses that, there's immense drafting and the finishes are incredibly close. But then when we run road course A without that and that tight chicane, the finishes are incredibly close. So it's just the nature of the track, but I think more so it's the talent of these drivers that it doesn't matter what the layout is. They are capable of nose to tail to tail to tail to tail racing. That's just incredible. Yeah,
it really is. And this racetrack, it's going to have over 35-ish cars packed on it here for the racing here tonight. 2 20-minute races as we're used to here. And the weather is actually pretty decent here. The track temp, though, has gone up quite a bit. It's cloudy, 84 degrees in the air, 120 on the racetrack. And, Greg, you pointed out in your tease there that this track eats tires, even more so when it's hot.
Yeah, it just chews them up, and it's also sensitive to that sunlight. And if you get direct sunlight on this track, even in the iRacing sim world, it heats up dramatically, and so you've got a rough track that also gets really hot. Well, that's just torture on tires. But the upside, I should say, to that downside is if you get a little bit of cloud cover, the track cools significantly. And it really can't help with that tire life so long as you drive smartly and save those tires a little bit.
Yeah, track temperature's up about 15 degrees from the beginning of practice, so it is continuing to rise here as we get into qualifying for our 2 20-minute races tonight. Nicholas Rice-Puto currently on provisional pole, but they're just a couple of laps into this session, still early days. And I mentioned over 30 entrants here today, and there's been some new names that have really been a factor. Think back to VIR, and Wan Shi Lin didn't really get the runs he deserved, Greg. He was a lot quicker than his results showed, but already in the top 10 here early in qualifying.
Yeah, he was really impressive with his speed, as you said. Had a couple of issues, got caught out in some things, but he's definitely going to be somebody to watch. The other thing that I'm noticing here is Nicholas Rice-Puto, the defending series champion now, having won our first season of 2024 right there. He drove a really smart race in that first race at VIR, but then had those issues in the second race. He needs some points. Yeah, he can use this as a drop, but you don't want to be, behind enough where you've got to drop the very first race. You'd like to get some good runs. Same story with Piatek. Josh Soto didn't even run that first race. He's third right now, so he needs it. And, of course, Camden Hibbett had a really good weekend, or Tuesday night, I should say, at VIR, as did Trace Hans. And so, looking to see that. And also, Evans showed that he's going to be a real factor.
Big group of cars leaving pit lane together, all sort of working together. I wanted to point out one of the drivers here in this field. If I can find him on the timing and scoring screen, he has been, it's the CRP racing car. Looking down the order, it should be Ayrton behind the wheel of that, but I can't find him on the scoring at the moment. So I'll have to check in on that a little bit later here in the session. But I believe he's 14 years old, Greg, and has had a NASA license for a couple of years, and just saw him apply for running at Grid Life. So that'll be an interesting story to follow throughout the year in his real world racing. But Anyway, as we get on the racetrack again for the final 7 minutes here in qualifying, Court Schmidt also back this week. He wasn't able to run with us, so good to have him back here in the virtual paddock at iRacing, up to 15th here on his first couple laps.
Well, and Court also had his full Sim trailer down at the Concourse Club in North Miami. It's that marvelous motorsports club facility, super high end. That's really close to Miami Gardens and Hard Rock Stadium, where the Miami International Autodrome, where the Miami Grand Prix just ran. And he had, I think it was something like 5 or 6 sims there at the Concourse Club, 3 in one room in particular. And it just had a huge amount of traffic on them. So he's doing a great job in getting out and getting the word out about these sims. And he also had a chance to come to the Concourse Club Suite, which is literally on the apex of Turn 3, where I was announcing for the club over the weekend. And it was just an absolutely great event. And it was really cool to be able to have him there and show off the full Sen Sims.
Yeah, what a weekend for motorsport it was. In road racing and on the oval side even, NASCAR had a pretty spectacular week as well. Closest finish in NASCAR history at Kansas Speedway. So pretty fascinating outside of the sim, but here in the sim, Court's back and racing with us again here this week. Andrew Gilliland is back as well. He was very strong there. New livery, it looks like, on the 91 as well.
Yes, it does. Looks sharp. Mazda Motorsports making it really look sharp. And a guy that was helping, I have to say, Court down at the Concourse Club was no less a talent than Trace Hans. So had a chance to sit and have some serious laughs with Trace and Court after the racing day was done out at the track. And great to see that as well. Nice to have Beans Forrester back with us. I think Beans just turned a lap that jumped him up into 11th. So we missed him at the first, he was exciting at the first race, and it's great to have him back as well. So, and Jose De Las Casas right now having a really good qualifying run up into 17th. Of course, this is a track he's pretty familiar with.
Yeah, certainly, and we've had a lot of really exciting results here at this Homestead circuit because of that drafting, as you pointed out, the back straightaway. The first couple of seasons that we were here, the cars had a slightly different setup. Again, we're running a fixed setup configuration here, and it didn't allow them to really draft as efficiently, but the last couple of seasons that we have come to Homestead, we have had some amazing results, and it always came down to the last lap. And I bring that up because the last few corners here at the Homestead road course configuration, this A configuration, that big dive into the infield, there is opportunity to slide underneath there, and then it's a braking duel into turn 12. So this is really a battle of the late breakers every time we get down to the last lap. So should be a lot of fun, especially with the level of competition just climbing so very high as it has the last few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. You know, if you're going to make that move down to the inside in 11, that's a huge commitment in a really fast off-camber corner because you're coming down off of that little bit of banking on the backstretch. And if you can just roll a little bit more speed through there than somebody else, you can, as you said, make that big dive move. But then getting it woed down, that's a whole different deal. And boy, this is quite the setup for Seth here. He's got backup video.
I really enjoy this because it shows you really don't need a $2,000 rig necessarily just to get started. He's got looks like a card table and a folding chair, and he's ready to go racing here. Of course, I think a full Sen Sim might be a little more comfortable.
I think he'd much prefer that, but you know, in the interim, he has something that is pretty nice, which is a drink cup holder.
Yeah, I don't have that on my rig, so he's one step ahead of me there as he navigates the hairpin here at turn 8 down there, and that's a great passing opportunity that we've seen time and time again, but it's also a trouble spot. It almost reminds me like a flat version of what's that corner at Barber? Is that turn 5 where you're coming down in that left-hander? It just feels opportunistic to dive and make a run down here, but there's it's the siren song. Every time you see that door open, you want to go for it.
Well, and the other thing is, not only is it a great overtaking area, but it's a huge, important corner to get a good launch out of because it then sets you up on that run down that long backstretch and that dive into 11 that you're talking about. So if you make a big move down in there, or if you go way to the inside to defend, it can end up making, you know, the fast in, slow out thing. And you can really compromise your exit which then can have you be a bit of a sitting duck down into 12th. So it's a real tightrope through turn 8. Sort of a similar thing almost to turn 6. Another long run, and I think we're on board right now with Morgan heading into this turn 6. Another huge opportunity for an overtake, but if you dive down here and run way wide and mess it up, you're going to be slow through 7 here and into that great overtaking opportunity in 8. So, that's part of the technicality of this track is you've got to be patient, you've got to be really smart, and you've got to drive just really precise lines to keep that roll speed up in this tight stuff.
And all of these corners are with those heavy braking zones. You're downshifting a couple of times. And how many times have we seen motors let go here? Downshifting too soon, using the engine braking too much, and the motor letting go. That's even happened to some of the big players here at Homestead. So I don't know what it is, but the braking zones are so long and so significant that you really want to use the engine braking, but sometimes you're in traffic, you kind of lose perspective of where you are, how far you are to the corner. You think you'll slow down more than you will, and then you throw the car in gear and boom, race over.
Well, the thing is, you're coming like into turn 8, into 6, to a degree into 2. You're coming down, and it's not just a brush of the brakes and a gear change. It's 3 gear changes, or you stomp on the brakes and just go direct. But either way, it's opportunities for you to be, every extra gear change is an opportunity to miss it and be able to make some problems here. Well, Rice Pudo had been on pole, but how about this, folks? Right now, it's Camden Hibbett over Morgan Burkhardt, over Rice Pudo, over Olivier Piatek, but the margin right now between Hibbett and Rice Pudo is 32 one-thousandths of a second.
It's incredibly close at the front of the field.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's going to be like that for the entire race, I imagine. Yep. The goal here is really not to get crossed up and race each other too hard to let someone sprint away like we'd seen Morgan Burkhardt do. But I haven't seen anyone dominate a race in this series in several seasons, Greg. So I don't know that that's even possible anymore with how tight it is at the front.
Yeah, well, I think everybody, has sort of really figured out how to drive this version of this car with the fixed setup, as you said. And there's some awfully talented drivers out there, and so that dominance Morgan showed, particularly in the first 2 seasons of 2023, when he just seemed to just click into it right away, has sort of evaporated a bit. So, while we're ready, getting ready for the grid, full send sims. We talked a little bit about Court bringing those sims down to the Concourse Club. He came up with the idea for this series. His sims are incredible. They've got new ones that are coming out that are just going to be spectacular. Lots of things on the works for full send sims. But above all, it doesn't matter what level of sim it is, practice makes podium. And we continue to see that. And that's the mantra that they live by. We also have 3P Logistics has been with us right from the off. And big thank you to Frank Rodriguez and his group. They are just absolutely superb, as is Final Turn Motorsports under the guidance of Rob Greenwood. They do phenomenal work as well. And, when you're thinking about any kind of safety equipment for racing, from helmets, suits, gloves, that kind of thing, I don't think there's anybody that is as good at it as Wine Country Motorsports, including being available when you really need it. And so we're lucky to have them jump on board as well. So that's really, really cool. And I just want to remind everybody once again, remember, if you're the highest eligible finisher in the points, first, that winner is going to get a Sabel GT pad race seat. I mean, that is really cool. Second place in the eligible list will be a SimLab XPI pedal set, and third place will be an iFlag LED flag box. So some really cool stuff for these drivers to be shooting for, as well as those trophies for 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely, and we talked last week about the iFlag flag box. Basically, it's like one of those trackside digital flag boards, but in a kind of a pocket size that you can attach to your rig or on your desk. It's a really neat piece of gear. I've got one myself. And then as far as Wine Country Motorsports, they had a presence at Sebring this past weekend, which was really cool to see, especially when I recognize brands and partners from Sim Racing Series. It's always nice to remember, they're out there. And they were at Sebring, so really neat to see. But cars are working their way around this racetrack on their one pace lap. 20 minutes should be about 12 laps here, Greg. But starting lineup is going to kick off now, and up in the front row, it's Camden Hibbett in the 132, and Morgan Burkhardt trying to repeat his success that he's found here at this track.
Yeah, those two guys battled like mad in the final few races of last season, didn't they? And then, of course, while they were battling, Nicholas Rice-Puto in the 0-3 went on to win the championship. He'll start third. And Olivier Piatek, who didn't run the first race, or struggled in that first race, in the 62. Great speed as always. Going to be fun to watch him.
And starting in 5th place is Joshua Soto. He missed out last week, and he's right back in the fray this week. And a strong qualifying effort by Trace Hans in the 53, starting 6th.
Another absolute player here, starts 7th, the 155 of Cam Eben, and a guy alongside him we've seen be extremely quick, Jorge Ortiz, in the 311 will start 8th.
And in 9th place, it's Hayden Manis in the 65. Wan Shi Lin rolls off 10th in the number 68.
Rolling off 11th in the number 20 is Deacon Greenfield. Beans Forrester in the 23 will start 12th.
In 13th place, Andrew Wozencroft in the 80, and Jean Reyes in the number 29 starts 14th.
15th will be the 136 of Gareth Nyland, starting in the 16th spot. Our own Court Schmidt in the 172.
And 17th place, Sandra Gillen to the number 91, new livery on board the car this week. And Luke Law rolls off 18th, the number 941, and with a short pace lap here. The rest of the order is quickly scrolling on the bottom of the screen because we're about ready to get rolling here from Homestead-Miami Speedway on this A configuration here, Greg, and it's about to be go time.
It is, and Bees promised us some really showy socks for that foot cam. We'll see what happens. All right, here we go. Green flag is up. 20 minutes of work, green! And back in that 4th row, that looked like maybe a little bit of an early move by Cam Eben. We'll see what they say, but up front, it is an absolute duel, side by side, down into turn 1. Couple of cars going spinning. Is that Court or is that Beans?
It's Court.
That's Court, and he was able to save it, but there was some contact there. And it looks like Morgan got the nose ahead on Hibbett here as they're working their way around. That gives him the inside into turn 4, and out of 5, he is going to be in the lead. Then it's Hibbett, and then we got Rice, Puto, Piatek, Hansen, Ortiz next up in the order.
And always frantic starts here at Homestead. That first sequence of corners is incredibly challenging. Ortiz up the inside of Cam Eben in the 155 car. Hayden Manis lurking in behind, but it's Hans alongside Piatek for 4th place.
Boy, and look at Hans. He was able to really keep that tight to the inside as he exited a little shorter distance run, but looks like Piatek maybe was able to roll a little bit more speed, has the nose ahead into turn 8. Eben thinking about it, he dives down the inside, that freezes Hans. Eben runs wide, Hans ends up off track and gives Eben a little bit of a nudge. Can't say that I blame him there. And looks like everybody survived it. Even Ortiz had to make a bit of a swerve there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and it was 3 wide, exchanging paint already. And then Hayden Manis behind in the silver car. Then it was Joshua Soto's the one in the CRP racing car, not Eric Grimm like I was anticipating here. A little side-by-side, Evans offline, a little more contact here through the chicane.
Yeah, boy, these guys, it is cut and thrust already. And I got to ask you, Kyle, I just saw 2 cars go way behind the curbing in turn 11. Is that an iRacing penalty track shortcut, or are they going to be able to get away with it?
So it is. I don't believe it is a shortcut until you're pretty far off down there, but they did talk about in the drivers' meeting that they wanted all the cars to have at least 2 tires on the inside of the white lines. So that might be something that gets looked at post-race as well now with some adjustments here for this week as Soto is on defense from Hayden Manis in the 65.
Yeah, he is really under attack right now, and of course right behind him as well is that's our Deacon Greenfield right there with the always running the VR goggles. And here's a look at Beans, and oh, look at it, the chicken foot. He's going like chicken foot. I love it, giving us that that absolutely wonderful look at how racing should still be with the heel and toe and trail braking and all the rest during the shifts. Absolutely fantastic. Started 12th, and that's right where he's running right now. Yeah,
watch again the footwork here on the brakes. And just love watching the heel toe downshifting, and he's going to dive up the inside of Deacon Greenfield, and he wants a spot from that number 20.
And he gets it's just amazing how smooth he is on those shifts and can make those kinds of passes and get it to work. And he's got a nice run here on Deacon too, doesn't he? Coming out, see if he's going to be able to place it, or will Deacon be able to stay? Yeah, he just decides not the spot maybe to make that attempt here and tucks right back in behind.
Single filing here through this chicane sequence on the inside of the NASCAR banking, I think you really have to be single file if you want to go quickly there. And by at all costs, avoid that yellow tire bundle on the inside apex. That thing will send you flying. But everyone's being really aggressive, climbing back up onto the banking, Greg. They're just straight lining that, bottoming the car out. It doesn't matter, but you have to be cautious that you don't get yourself in trouble. You hit that too hard. I've seen engines blow from breaking oil pans down there. Even in iRacing, it can happen.
Yeah, and I would think, I mean, that just torques right through the chassis, even in iRacing, I would think a little bit.
Yeah.
And it can also really unload the car. So if you don't do that really well, you can suddenly find yourself spearing right up into the wall here. Up front, Hibbett, absolutely tucked in behind Burkhardt. Raisputo laying back a little bit and watching. And Piatek has been able to make a break because I think of Eben working Ortiz over so much. Ortiz has had to be a little bit defensive, and now they've dropped off to the tune of a couple of seconds behind that green car with the white lightning bolts of Piatek.
Yeah, I said that we haven't seen any dominant performances by any single driver, but these drivers are doing exactly what I think is the smart play to do. Get separated, build a bit of a gap to the next group of competitive cars, but you'd much rather only have to worry about 2 or 3 other competitors rather than 22 or 23 other competitors. So I like this call early, just kind of play together and push away from the scrum going on behind them.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's really good. The guy who's really lost out here is Trace Hans. He's now sitting back in the 13th spot, and I don't know if when Court got got sent around there, if he had to check up and get out of it or somehow, but he's lost some ground relative to where he started. The other guy that I'm surprised at, and it also speaks to how important qualifying is here, is Dean Dibdal. We saw how impressively fast he was in the opening round at VIR, and he didn't get the great qualifying here, and he's mired back in 15th right now, and he showed tremendous speed at VIR.
He's already made up 8 places, so he's got some pace, but this track, perhaps more than VIR, requires a bit more teamwork and drafting and things of the sort to really make it work out well. So maybe that's what held him back, but he is moving forward after having a phenomenal round at Virginia International Raceway last week. Andrew Gilliland is right in the midst of this as well. He started 17th, he's +4, and Wan Shi Lin, I think, has actually gone backwards from where he started in that 68.
Yeah, he is. I think that was Gilliland just completing a pass on Wan Shi Lin there. So a little bit of a surprise there, but we'll see. You know, Wan Chi is so talented. We'll see what he's going to be able to do here. Still a fair amount of race time left. I mean, I'm sure he'd like to at least try and get back up into the top 10 because he was right about there and thereabouts in that qualifying run.
I love this on this shot here over his shoulder on the wall. Those are iRacing certificates. I can't exactly make out what they're for, but you usually get those because you've won seasons against other competitors in iRacing's official series. Now that's hard to do, so the fact he's got 3 of them stacked up, it implies that he is very, very successful over on the official racing side of things, as Hibbett and Burkhardt are just nip and tuck, these two, aren't they?
So tight the way that they race, and you know, there was a little bit argy-bargy with them during some of their battles last year, and they have and Hibbett, you can see he got a great run, and then Morgan hit that banking really abruptly, and that was just enough for Camden to get his nose down inside. But looks, is he going to go in straight line to the apex? He is. And I think Morgan is going to at some point say, okay, you got it. I'm just going to tuck in, square up underneath. And Morgan might try and get him right back. And the guy who's loving this is Olivier Piatek, because that's going to bring him right onto the tail of Raisputo. And suddenly we've got a 4-car scrum going at it here. And Hibbett and Burkhardt side by each for what now, 3-4 corners?
Yeah, but Nicholas Raisputo decided to go with Burkhardt, so it left Hibbett hanging out to dry like it's Talladega. Got sucker hold,
Yep.
And here comes the 40 around the outside at turn 5, and he's through.
Yeah, it's just some fabulous stuff. And again, now that's brought Piatek right into it. And it doesn't look like Ortiz, Eben, that group was really able to gain from it, because these guys seem to be able to do that side-by-side racing, but they also understand, solve it before you get to the turn-in point, so that you're not losing too much speed. And the corners they went side-by-side through weren't hugely affected corners, and they made that work and didn't lose a bit to that group behind, did they?
Their dance is pretty efficient at this point.
Yes,
They've done it so many times. It's at the tail end of the race when everyone's throwing moves that no one's expecting. That's when things can get messy. up at the front of the field. I heard Gresham Wagner talk about, obviously a very talented Mazda racer, current competitor in Toyota GR Cup, talk about how, racing in MX-5s can often be like a tornado where you just get a run and go for it. But, sometimes there's extra calculation that you need to have. And with the draft a little bit less effective in these cars than the newer NDs, that calculation can be pretty important.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that. Like, if you wreck the car, you lose a house.
I mean, that too. That's really good. I dig that. I was going to say the other day when I was watching the GR Cup race, they had a driver, Weston Workman, chasing Gresham down, and I was going to say he's the worst Etch-a-Sketch because nobody can shake him. but I didn't manage to get that out on broadcast, so
Well, do it next time because that's a good line. That is fabulous here. We are coming up on halfway done here, and now some traffic's going to come into play, Kyle. Some of those cars that had some issues a little bit earlier, this group of 4 is going to be running up on them.
I thought it was Court Schmidt, but it is not. I'm trying to figure out what car that is, and it appears to be Sawyer Richards in a similar livery to one that Court Schmidt's got. And he just has not had a very good start to the day. Just ran his best lap, though, and is just trying to right the ship at this point. Oh, got back late on the lunge, way deep into turn 8.
And as a result, got a nose, and I think it so surprised Camden, he really didn't have time to slow down. Watch this again, Kyle.
Yeah, from high above, watch the green car just miss his braking point and just try to get out of the way. Hibbett saw it coming, but it didn't prevent them from making contact mid-corner.
And then Mr. Opportunity, Nicholas Rice-Budo says thank you. Squares up underneath. Now what that's done is Morgan Burkhart has some breathing room, and we've seen what he can do on occasion when he doesn't have to look in those mirrors at all. He has a knack for just being able to drive away. Oh, whoa, that's close.
Yeah, a lot of contact here. Ray's in the 29. Hance and Manis are all in this group. That was Beans Forster as well that was involved in a little elbow to elbow.
That's a really, really close, intense racing going on, and of course that's what we love here. Now, wow! How did the 29 of Jean Reyes there find a gap to slot into between those two cars? That was pretty exceptional to get his line back. And now he's going to try and straight line it here to the apex in 3. Woo. And Trace is just going to drive the outside and manages to still not get it too far off to the right where he loses angle into 5. That was Trace just saying, I'm going to be your wall here. And so if you're going to try and do anything, you're going to have to hit me and knock me out of the way. And fortunately, a really nice piece of driving there by John Reyes.
And look at Dean Dibdahl going to cross him over at corner exit and have a look at turn position 11 here. It's going to point out that how do you find that hole? Well, one of the benefits of being in a simulator, you've got an all-knowing, all-seeing spotter. You hear clear, better take that spot.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's fabulous. I wasn't aware of that. That's built into the program, huh?
Yep, and there are also spotter packs that you can download that are just sound packs that sound like Jimmy Johnson, if that's your flavor, or Chad Knaus, or there's all sorts of fun ones out there. But there's also some
good.
Well, no, but they swear at you. Can get ones that swear at you too.
Oh, now that's good.
And
so
the
now
famous,
we're getting to real world.
Well. Yeah, but the famous Samir, you're breaking the car. You can get that too. So it's all in the name of fun, but yeah,
absolutely.
The spotter is a tool that you typically would leave on, and obviously there are some aftermarket downloads as well that also provide you information about what particular corner there's been an off. And what the driver's name is. They'll call it out. They'll call you by name. There's some really neat features now, but yeah, it's a critical tool, especially when racing is this tight.
Yeah, I would surely have it on just to get that little bit here. Having it on, by the way, is Morgan Burkhart. Ooh, big lunge right there by the number 90 down to the inside.
Dahl is just putting on a show back here, trying to get by Reyes. Running out of road there, but he's going to sneak that 99 up to the outside and maybe get a shove from Manis.
Yeah, that number on the side looks a lot like a 0 instead of a second 9, but you're right. That's Dibdahl.
He does have a 90 painted on the door as well, so that's not helping. Door card says 99.
You're right. That's what caught me out. But, Morgan Burkhart had opened it up to about a second, and then Rice-Budo just clocked a really nice lap and a couple of segments and has trimmed a quarter of a second off that as Piatek runs wide.
Uh-oh.
But gathers it up. Oh, Ortiz.
Yep, and this is what we talked about in the pre-race. Watch on the brakes here and into this corner that one of the two corners I highlighted could have this problem. Too early, downshift, boom, cloud of smoke, race over. That's how fast it happens.
Yeah, that is such a shame. He had a good one going, but, really good sportsmanship there, because the minute it happened, he just turned right and drove into the gravel trap to get out of the way of anybody behind and punched the goodbye button. So well done by him, but hate to see it. He is so quick. Be fun to see him really be able to put one together here. But Nicholas Rice-Budo has taken that quarter second out, partly because he has to, because Camden Hibbett is just shoving him forward right now.
Yeah, and the closer they get, the draft will be stronger, but they can't afford mistakes like that, so Hibbett will have to go by here. If they race at all, that's going to be game over here with only 5 minutes to go, and just like that, he slots in behind Hibbett.
Yeah, and that was really good, too, by Rice-Budo when he had that off, recognized it, didn't try and force his way back on and protect on Hibbett, as you said, recognized that's just going to cost us time, tucked right in behind, and these guys still have an opportunity, if they work together, to get to Burkhardt.
Yeah, they lost time, but I don't think it's catastrophic just yet. Here's Dylan Lee and Wan Shi Lin battling door-to-door, and Wan Shi, again, has continued to drop back. Alex McClellan is going to go to driver's left. I think there's something wrong with Lin's car. He's off the pace by a lot right now.
Yeah, and that, I'll tell you, that move by Dylan Lee, he just rounded him up with ease right around. It was a big outside move, and he made it work. But now he's in a little too hot, and he's got to give that right back to Wan Shi Lin after executing a beautiful pass.
All that is a bit deeper in the field, just inside the top 20. And
well, you're right. Wan Shi just does not seem to have any straight line at all, does he?
Yeah, and there's a lot of damage on that car, front, rear, side, so it's not aerodynamically as efficient, but typically we haven't seen that be a huge deal.
I think maybe he's got some toe out, so now that tire's scrubbing a bit.
It certainly could be, and we might be able to get an idea jumping on board. Oh, there's your answer. That steering wheel is off kilter. You're right about that, Greg.
And that just robs speed. It's like sliding right through a corner. It's just sliding a little bit all the time.
Whoa.
Doesn't do the tire any favor either. Whoa! Did he get a run through there? I don't know that he even meant that, but it was. He came in there with a huge head of steam.
Gosh, that banking transition is gnarly, isn't it?
Oh, it's violent. Yeah, it's absolutely violent.
Trace Hans
under a track. Trace has made a great comeback drive, hasn't he?
He has, and this is a great battle between Forrester, Hans, Reyes, and look at Dean Dibdahl from where he started on the grid, 23rd up into the top 10 if he can complete this pass.
Yeah, that's spectacular. And John Reyes, he's having an absolutely great run as well. Just been able to stay, started 14th, but has fought his way up into the top 10. And the other guy, Trace qualified well. Oh, is he going to get that done, Dibdahl? On Reyes? Reyes goes way wide, but rolls a lot of speed there. But Trace Hans dropped back significantly from where he qualified and has fought his way back. I mean, look at that, 60 went all the way back to 14th. And now he's knocking on the door. He's up in the 9th now, so he's in the top 10.
Been a busy day for Trace Hans, hasn't it?
Yes, he has.
It's one of those days where you look at where you started and where you finished. Look at this drag race out of turn 8.
Beans ran a little wide, dropped those right side tires, and obviously when you get them on the outside of that curb into the grass, they just don't grip. And Trace was able to just power down through. Now, is Beans going to fight him? He thought about it, and then recognized, if I turn in like I was thinking, we're going to touch, can't do that, and now slots right back in behind Trace.
I was going to say, it was one of those days where you look down at the where you started and where you finished, and they're the same number, but it does not tell the whole story of the rest of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you one thing about spending time with Trace at the Concourse Club at the end of the days of the F1 race. I've seen him before, talked to him a little bit, but we were able to, he and I and Court, some others, just talking. And boy, he is quick with a laugh and just a great sense of humor. Ooh, look at this move here around the outside by Reyes.
Yeah, Hans.
That might have,
he did a nice job kind of breaking across the racetrack defensively, and then
he did.
Bottled up Beans, and then Reyes came to the outside and almost had the move done, but ran out of road. And Dean Dibdahl still trying for a top 10 back here.
Yeah, he is scrapping, isn't he? Doing everything he can to figure out a way around Reyes. And a guy we haven't talked about a lot, having one of his better races, is Mr. Deacon Greenfield, having a really strong run, sitting up there in 7th right now and hounding no less a talent than Evan.
Yeah, some of the days when you don't get talked about, those are the best days because it means you're just having
exactly.
a solid, good day. And those can sometimes be hard to come by, especially when things are as competitive and rough and tumble as this. Hans crosses over. Forster back to the inside of the exit of 8.
Yep, Hans just went a little bit too wide and gave that opening there. And Beans obviously is going to dive underneath there and grab that. Hans technically still has the lead, but I think Beans might nose ahead. Well, now that I say that, we see Reyes for a minute thinking about going with Hans. Now decides to go with Beans. Oh boy. Oh, Hansen really, really hot.
Yeah, it's too hot, I think, but he's managed to keep it on the road. How about that for defense?
Wow, he just sort of played a little game of pitch and catch there, and it worked. But again, sideways, up to the wall, white flag. Boy, this race has flown by.
It has, and this is position number 8 that we're watching the battle for. Up front, Burkhardt still leads by about a half a second. I don't know that Hibbett can run him down from there. A little contact into turn 1 for Forster on the back of Hans.
And now again, Hans runs that wide line. Bean squares up underneath. Reyes trying to figure out who do I go with. And Dibdahl trying to get a little bit of overlap around the outside there. And Reyes saying, yeah, I got you covered, buddy. But look at this stuff. Side by side and with great respect, but giving each other everything they could possibly. Look at the grin on Bean's face. This is what you love here. And although it's taking a toll on his feet, they look terrible.
Oh man, look at this drag race again, out of turn 7 now, little side-by-side contact, and Hayden Mattis is back there as well, waiting to see if he can pick up any pieces. 5-car race for 8th place.
This is fantastic stuff. Yeah, ooh, Reyes and Dibdahl, just a slight little touch there. And that's giving, you're right, that is giving Hayden Mattis visions of grandeur here. See what he could pull off at this stage here. Look at Dibdahl, got a great run, wanted to come down beneath everything and couldn't quite execute that.
Here we go.
Here we go.
For the
On
lead.
the straight, Hibbett gets the inside. Oh, there's a touch. And that knocked Burkhardt slightly sideways. And look at Camden. He is such a class kid. Backed up a little bit, said, I don't want to win it that way. And just checked up, let Burkhardt grab that back. Piatek, great run to 3rd. Rice Pudo getting around to Rice Pudo. And again, that's a great finish for the podium. But look at this duel. And look at this move to try and break the draft by Beans.
Beans 8th, Hans 9th, Reyes 10th, Dibdahl and Mattis 11th and 12th. That was a just dogfight between those two.
You know what that was? That was a brawl betwixt the wall.
You called it.
Yeah.
About 30 minutes ago at this rate.
Yeah, they just get into it. It is too fun here. And it was interesting watching that, Camden as he came up, just there was that little touch, and it sure looked to me that the minute he touched him, he just lifted a little bit.
Yeah, we'll go back and look at that replay in between the races here, but there's your results for race 1 here at Homestead. And despite Burkhardt having a half-second lead going into the last lap, the margin of victory was just about a 10th and a half, and it could have been less. So that's something to note for race 2, Greg, that it's not over if you're a half-second back coming to the white.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think what probably created that little gap between Hibbett and Piatek and Rice Pudo was clearly Olivier made a pass while we were watching that other great battle, and that just slowed him up by a few tenths and gave Camden the ability to just focus forward. He darn near ran him down.
Josh Soto up inside the top 5, his first race of the season, not a bad place. Dean Dibdahl up from 23rd to 11th, but I bet you that car is going further forward in race 2. What a phenomenal talent he has been so far this season. Wan Shi Lin would like to right the ship. He rolls off 18th here in race 2 as the session ticks over, so my results will go away. But let's have another look at the finish for the top spot here, because I think there was more to it. Look at how far back Hibbett was when he went for this move here.
And watch Morgan. Looks like everything's under control here, but that slide there got him a little offline. Then Hibbett, there's that little touchdown. Watch, he doesn't keep the hammer down. He just, I swear, he just lifted and said, no, I'm not going to win that way. And, I know that some of the officials have said they would like to take a little bit more of a stern role in these taps. So watch it here again, Kyle. What's your take on it?
Yeah, just it drives in there really hot, sees the door open. I mean, there's a car-sized hole there, but I think with the car-sized hole, you could surmise that it didn't require the contact, and I think Hibbett thought the same way. But, I mean, that was going to be a late move. It was going to be a desperate drive if he had that there. I think next time he wouldn't like to wait this long, but that was the opportunity, and he had to try it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it was also Hibbett's run through 12 and 13 that actually got Morgan off of the preferred line, because he totally missed the apex in 14 here. Watch this. He had to, right there. You see how much he missed it?
Yeah, and even before that, too, watch the turn in. Look at how much Hibbett gains on exit here and then on entry into the braking. Just a really efficient sector for Camden Hibbett. And if he could do that again, but have overlap next time, then I think he'd be winning this race.
Well, I think Camden used a bit more curb in turn 12, and that really set him up as Morgan sort of wrapped around it, but Hibbett just seemed to be a lot smoother across that curve.
Yeah, a little contact there once, twice, thrice, and that was enough as Morgan pulls away and wins race 1. So I guess all is well in the world if Morgan Burkhardt wins at Homestead. It seems like that's been a theme the last couple of years, but again, when you look at a season-long championship, you have to get wins somewhere, and Morgan Burkhardt would like to go for his 4th championship this season.
Yeah, absolutely he would. And, every once in a while, you get to a track where you just sort of, in your head, you say, this is my house. If you're going to win, you got to come through me. And this seems to be one of those places for Morgan, doesn't it?
I think it is one of those places for him, and he would love to get maximum points here and head off to the next round, really ready to continue that trend. And the schedule, again, for this season, a couple new things here. We had the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course next week. Then we have an off week. Then we had the Sebring. So some really fun tracks coming up. Mid-Ohio, again, new on our calendar. We've never raced there in this championship. So that's a big wild card. Nobody knows who will be the dominant force there.
Absolutely. And for the drivers that haven't driven Mid-Ohio in some time, on the 9th, which is this Thursday, there is going to be a group practice. That's a new thing now that Full Send Sims in this series has instituted on the weekend, or the weeks where there is no actual driver's school. They're just having group practices, an open practice session. And since Mid-Ohio, Kyle, is kind of new to this series, certainly, and probably new to some of the drivers, this coming Thursday night, 2 days from now, there is going to be just an open group practice at that track. Great idea. If you haven't driven it much, man, it is a fabulous driver's track.
Perhaps one of the best tracks for cars like this and racing like this.
Yes.
I think it's just phenomenal. The only thing I dislike about Mid-Ohio in iRacing is that we don't get the back straightaway start with that launch into turn 4. I really wish we could get that. It's kind of running NASCAR rules where you start on the front straightaway like you should, and that's no fun. But anyway, that place is great. And I got a chance to drive it in the rain. It was actually the first racetrack that I drove in the rain, because it's one of the few I've had experience at least riding around the track when it's wet. And Greg, as you know, it's one of the most challenging courses in the country whenever there is a lick of moisture on it. Now, the track's been repaved in the real world since, but in iRacing, I was amazed at how realistic the rain was as far as where it was puddling. The famous river down the backstretch, the big puddles at turn 6, it was all there exactly right.
And in terms of grip, none. Just
none.
Absolute history, yeah. So, take advantage of that. Also, the following Thursday, we do have one of the driver schools. That's at Sebring. And remember, the first Sebring race we're having, we have 2 this year. First one will be in the short course, so there's going to be a driver school there as well. So check that out. And after Mid-Ohio, it's an off week. And we've never had one of those before. And I just wanted to mention that the reason that we're going to have that off week is everybody that's involved with the Full Send Sim series, from the production end of things, putting the series on, will actually be at Fort Liberty, North Carolina, for the Veterans Trust Race Experience. And it's for service members and their families, and that's where everybody will be. And it honors the men, women, families of the 82nd Airborne Division during All-American Week. And so it's really cool. There's 5 motorsport disciplines will be participating there. 7 active exhibitions will take place on the active duty Army base. Just a variety of things unfolding there. And the Army is also actively participating. You're going to have Apache helicopters there, all kinds of things going on. But a big part of it, Full Send Sims will be there with simulators to let the members and their family of the service members and such get some fun in the sims and helping organize some of the other stuff. So an incredibly worthy cause, and for that we'll happily have an off week here. But we will be back then the 28th of May at Sebring for that short course extravaganza.
Thanks for that, Greg. And yeah, really neat situation they've got going on. Of course, the off week, kind of a unique situation as far as this championship has gone in the past. And you mentioned Sebring. Well, it is the short course the week after, but we will conclude the season on the full course on July 9th. So there might be some parallels you want to draw in practice. Of course, Road America leads up to that as well. So the National Park of Speed is the penultimate round in season 2 of 2024. And man, that place just breeds excitement.
It's so fast, so exciting, such big commitment, and the draft there is stunning. And yeah, it's going to be fun. What a way to end the season, man. Road America and then into the Sebring long course, both of which have produced some absolutely incredible races and finishes. So looking forward to that. But we get another one to go tonight, and I'll tell you what, that first race, pretty darn exciting in its own right.
It was, and I think especially in the top 10, that 8th place battle at the end was really fierce. But there was a lot of drivers that spent their entire first race clawing through the field. Dean Dibdahl is one of those. He was a top 5 competitor at VIR last week. So what kind of wild card will he be in the top 5 in this race? I bet you he'll get there, especially with the frantic starts. Now, Cord Schmidt learned on the first race that the starts said, or I guess relearned because he's been in this position before, that things get frantic down at turn 1 and turn 2, and I think he would also like a do-over, especially with a couple other drivers going off as well. So turn 1, turn 2, it's frantic. Everyone knows that they got to keep it straight through there, Greg, but it, for some reason, is just a really challenging sequence of corners here with a 32-car Spec MX-5 field.
You know, you get the feeling that everybody just kind of think, God, I can make I can make this pass work, and you can't. So that's kind of how it is. And the other guy that I'm going to be fascinated in watching is Juan Lin, because he's so good and struggled in that first race. And if he had a mechanical issue, now obviously that can be remedied, it'll be fun to see what he could do perhaps coming through the pack. So I think we're in for some fireworks.
I wonder how many of the drivers think, well, everyone's trying to be careful in turn 1, so I'm going to be the one to take advantage of it. I think that might, and honestly, they're probably the same amount of drivers that are saying, all right, it's going to be carnage, so I'm going to be careful, and that overcautiousness, that's what can get you in trouble sometime.
And our history in these double headers, generally the second race is when it gets a little bit more intense. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fascinating race. And I mean, those 4 up front, you add Soto, Evan, Greenfield, Beans Forster starting 8th, Hamp 9th. And as you said, Dibdahl there in 11th. Jean Reyes has shown speed. This could be an absolute cracker of a race here. We're just about to get underway with it. Our second race, 20 minutes in duration. We're green. And again, Morgan just gets that little bit of nose ahead here. And of course, Piatek is known as but look at this, 5 abreast as we head into 1. And it's, how do you sort yourself out through this here? So everybody, who was that down to the inside trying to make it 4 abreast? There was a touch, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was, and I think Elliott Burton and Wayne Buttermore got the worst of it. Everyone else keeps it straight and hits Hibbett and Burkhardt again, side by side for the top spot, and Piatek to 3rd and looking for 2nd.
Yeah, and Hibbett left that door open just for a second, and we know Olivier Piatek, he's one of those aggressive passers. Look at Evan, hugely defending there on Soto. Couldn't get it done. Soto down to the inside and sneaks through. Hans gets loose. Was that Ortiz?
Yeah.
Loosened him up, but he saved it.
And Dean Dibdahl has broken something. That car is not tracking straight right now. If we can get a straight-on shot, you'll see that Dean's car is crabbing badly.
Well, there goes his charge.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
That's a real shame.
Early in the race, but again, any side-by-side contact that gets you in the front wheel, that can end your day pretty quickly.
Yep, and just saw Kurt Schmidt right there working an outside pass, it looked like. And he may have moved up a spot.
10, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal start. Wow. Well done, sir.
Carving through him. How about that camera shot?
Now that's fun. Just with the sounds, too.
Yeah. Real aggression here. Court is on a mission right now, up 11 spots in lap 1. If he does that again, he'll be 6th at the end of lap 2, but I think a lot of those spots were down in the opening corner where it's like shooting fish in a barrel a little bit if you're late on the brakes.
Yep, there goes Beans, little wrinkle in the back deck and dives down underneath Deacon Greenfield.
These two have fought in race 1 as well.
Yeah, they sure did. And that Beans now, but Beans came from a little farther back in race 1, didn't he? So he and Deacon have an opportunity to try and get up there and battle with Evan and Soto perhaps here. Although they've eased away just a little bit up front, not by much. And how about a shout out to Jean Reyes? He's doing another really nice job here.
Yeah, putting himself right in the mix in the top 10. And I think if you run in the top 10 long enough here in this series, you're guaranteed to get a top 5 here and there. And enough of those, you generally get a shot to win here and there when chaos or carnage happens around you, even if you're not the fastest any given week. It's just about being in the right place at the right time. And as I always say, sometimes I'd rather be lucky than good.
Absolutely, that's all part of it. Ooh, big miss on the turn in there by Rice Pudo. Soto saw it as an opportunity, then got hit by Deacon Greenfield because Deacon, I think whoever was behind Deacon at that moment had to hit him. Deacon was just sort of thrown into him. Yeah,
Cam Ebbett from a long ways back there, and not really a lot Deacon could have done. Yeah. He was already kind of committed, and once you're turning, if you just hit the brakes, you're going to understeer into it anyway, so it's just a tough scenario, but that's from a long way back.
Yeah, and the thing was, I think that was all precipitated by Rice Pudo running really late and wide on his turn in, and Soto turned in at that point, and had to check up a little bit, so that's unfortunate. But now look at this big gap again. We had for a moment there, Kyle, we had a 9-car battle for the lead, and now it's down to the 4 usual suspects, at least from race 1.
Yeah, and we mentioned in the past how Morgan had driven away a couple of times here at this racetrack, and imagine if Hibbett, Piatek, and Rice Pudo were not here, the lead that Burkhardt would be growing. But with in hindsight, or in lieu of that, Hibbett, Piatek, and Rice Pudo, they're right there on top of them, and all 4 are driving away. Now, when they start battling again, who knows how the pieces will shake out this time, but Morgan Burkhardt got a lucky break and was able to hang on in race 1.
And the guy who hugely benefited from what was unfolding with that multi-car off down there was Jean Reyes, who has just leapfrogged his way up into 6th. So with Forrester 7th and Hans in 8th, and that's going to be a good scrap as Hans coming down underneath Beans here. And Manis right in the mix behind him there in the 65.
Yeah, Manis has just been mirroring everybody here just ahead of him. He's been following Forrester and Hans most of the night, but it has not led him wrong so far. And how about Andrew Gilliland up into 10th place? I was just looking
at that. That's impressive. Now for him, he's got Ortiz right behind him, who is mighty quick. Let's see what Andrew's going to be able to do with it here. Oh, that was so close.
Oh, and up the inside. Hello. There goes Ortiz.
Yep. Wow, that's such a violent slam.
Yeah, something tells me you wouldn't be taking it that aggressively in the real world, but
no.
Here in the simulator, you don't have your spine to worry about, so it's...
Exactly. I announced the FARA races, and many of them are held at FARA, and they have a series of cones down there that follow that line if you were coming off of the oval, and in the drivers' meetings, they're told that is a concrete wall. If you exceed it, we will make sure you lose time.
Right.
And because of the rear world damage that can happen, and especially for formula cars, those suspensions really aren't designed for that, already loaded as they are. So they're really mindful of that. But as you said, Go ahead and go for it here, I guess.
I mean, without the cones, it's an asphalt wall. It just happens to be angled at 20-odd degrees instead of 90. So,
yeah, and a little longer ways up.
Yeah, it sure is. But 4-car breakaway at the front of the field. These races have been flying by. We've only got 13 minutes left in this one. Burkhardt, Hibbett, Piatek, and Rice-Pudo have separated themselves, and Manis and Gilliland going back at it for 10th place.
Yeah, and I was just looking at that because you got Cam Evan kind of on an island there in 5th, but then you've got Reyes, Hans, Forster, Ortiz, Manis, Gilliland, and they are all covered by extremely nothing, essentially. And right at the back of that, up to 15th, is Court, who is flying right now.
Yeah, he has just had a phenomenal start to this race and making really good time. I think he's got lap times that are competitive up to about 10th spot right now. So he could gain another 5 or 6. And with how closely packed they are, I think he'll get there and even be able to scrap a little further forward than that even.
Yeah, Court's running mid to low 145s, and that's pretty much what Beans just ran. So
Beans and Ortiz just clouded each other.
Oh, man.
Side by side into turn 1.
And you can see Hayden Manis back there going, do it again.
Ooh, man.
Yeah. Ortiz is just really vigorous defense, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, well, that again, we saw this a similar move. I think it was from Hansen the previous race, where breaking across the racetrack. Now, you know that's probably a fine line between fair game and not. But I can tell you one thing: it will be a self-policing policy when someone gets in there too deep. Look at Hayden Manis catching Forster off guard.
Yep, just a little tap there. You can see the nose of Bean's car suddenly jumped skyward a little bit as those tires rubbed, and that actually cost him to another spot, as I think was that Dibdall went through, or Gilliland went through.
Yep, and then this is the car.
He's
I think,
having a good day.
Yeah, he is. I think you pointed out this car on the opening launch, going down the inside 3 or 4 wide, the MBM Performance Miata of Gareth Nyland, 26th to 12th in the opening stages of this one.
And he was up in the top 10, I believe, frequently in our first race at VIR. So he has some speed too. And I don't know whether he just didn't get a clean lap during qualifying or whatever. But boy, as you said, he's auguring through the pack right now, right in front of Alex McClellan.
Ooh, McClellan's in the gray car there. Big lunge as Forster drops behind. I think the damage on the 23 is severe enough that it's costing him some time now. The damage on the rear wasn't a big deal, but that left front fender and bumper are looking a bit secondhand.
Yeah, it is looking pretty used, isn't it? And again, we saw what happened with once you then you get the toe out knocked a little bit, and it can really affect not only your handling, but if it's bad enough, your straight line speed. And here comes McClellan again, thinking about it again. Whoa! Big lunge there by Nyland on Gilliland, knocked him right off the track.
Who was that? That was Sawyer Richards, who was going a lap down.
Oh, that's what happened.
And he just got caught from out of nowhere, and that was chaos for a moment. Here's Forster back on Nyland.
Yeah, with some aggressive moves here. Now, McClellan says, well, I'm going to pick my guy here, and it looks like Nyland's willing to be aggressive and do stuff. Ooh, and he loosens up. Nyland big time under braking, and Nyland somehow hangs on to it.
And here's Court going to pick up the pieces. He's going to go shoot for the middle here. He's going to try, but oh, that's going to be very, very tight. Wozencroft on the left and McClellan on the right.
Court's getting a double side toe, isn't he?
And here's James Newell in the Barbie car.
Wow. 4 abreast into the braking zone of 8.
Can't believe they did that without any dramas, at least on entry. There goes the 80. Spoke too soon.
Yep, and that, well, I'm sorry, but I don't know that that was necessary. It looked like Andrew was pretty much straight there. Well, he did. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Saw that one from high above. That's a perspective the drivers will have to look at later. But out front, it's still the same 4 that we talked about earlier. They're 5 seconds clear of Cam Eben at the 10-minute to go mark.
And I've been looking at Cam's times, and every time he closes something up, the guys up front just go a little quicker on him. And like the last lap, he went a low 44, but everybody up front was in the 43s. So, and that's just a matter of they have help. He's doing this all alone.
Lonely feeling being stuck in no man's land.
Yeah, and frustrating, I'm sure, you know, knowing that if you had help, you could probably be right up there fighting for it.
fighting for it indeed. 11th place, Forster, Nyland, and now Cord Schmidt from the back of the field to 13th place. As you said, auguring his way through. And now he's got 2 more to pick up. Ooh, contact.
That's not the first time these guys have bumped here. Nice run by Beans around the outside.
Where it's going to go driver's left. I don't know if that's going to work. Ooh, little contact there.
Yep. And look at coming around the other side is Newell. He's going to try and go by everybody around the outside. Now he could get parked right there.
Oh, Newell's going to get pushed off there. And now Court trying to now defend spots that he picked up half a lap ago.
Down to the inside comes McClelland.
3 wide. Oh, no way, this works.
He might have this done. Yeah, if somebody doesn't give. Look who's coming in. Wan Chi Lin. We talked about him, and he has dialed it up and has joined this battle.
He sure has, and right in the thick of it right now as they head through some of the fastest corners on the racetrack. I thought there was no way that they were going to execute that without someone going for a wild ride through the Homestead grass, but they did somehow, and Forster just dropping like a stone into a well, just right to the bottom with the damage he's got.
All right, I think that clip, Kyle, we got to get that to Andrew Benat and have him play it and go, you can do it if you're smart. It can be done.
I just remember it was Lime Rock a couple of years ago in a grid life race, and our drivers decided to go 4 wide into turn 1 at Lime Rock. And I said, you cannot do that. And then they did it. So I don't know what it is, defiance or otherwise, but they like to make things exciting, don't they?
Yeah, oh, absolutely they do. And thank goodness they keep us on our toes for sure in this battle here. Again, Reyes doing a superb job in front of Ortiz. Jorge Ortiz is wicked quick, and Reyes is defended beautifully. Here comes Hans giving a look here.
Oh, don't turn him around.
Yeah.
He made it from 30th to 7th, and he's going to get muscled out of the way for that 7th spot.
Oh,
More
and he's
contact.
muscling back. He was muscling back there, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely leaning on each other now.
Yeah, and I think that has opened the outside maybe for Hayden Manis. Well, they were shoving each other. Hayden got a little bit better run.
Oh,
look at this now.
Boy. There goes a ride.
Yeah, I think those two are going to have a chat with our steward here.
I would imagine so. I mean, it got extensive leaving the infield here, but then down into 11. That's ugly, and I think that was the old Alt F4 for Trace Hans to avoid maybe
I think so too.
Picking up more. But under 6 minutes to go, and things have been remarkably calm at the front. For how long?
Well, I was just going to say that usually means that somebody's fuse is going to go off shortly here. And right now, I mean, Burkhardt and Hibbett have the slightest of margins, maybe a half second back to Piatek and Rice Puto. And then you can see Evan, who just is continually losing time here. And, you know, I always wonder in these, Burkhardt running a little wide there. In these instances, are Piatek and Rice Puto purposefully laying back a little bit, thinking these two guys might start banging on each other? Or are they just not quite able to stay with them?
I think it's the latter, to be honest. I think, you know, I've seen him race so many times that I'd have to imagine at this point that they're, you know, they kind of know how things are going to go. Camden's going to wait until he sees an opportunity, and then things are going to get, you know, the wick is going to get turned up like right here. But I think they'd rather be right on top of those drivers and have a spot to drive through rather than have to brake and miss cars slipping and sliding. Look at Hibbett now down the inside, and he's going to muscle his way through Morgan Burkhardt and take the lead away. Here we go, battle's on.
It is, and watching, that's so violent, and Hibbett got through there pretty well, so I was thinking, you know, if it just gets offline, look at the grin. I love it. He's like, all right, I got the lead now. You got some work to do, young man.
Defense.
You're capable of it, but you got to do it on one of the best in the business here, and woo! Late move down to the inside, and traffic.
about to get a lot of fun. We're coming to 2 laps to go next time by the way, so this racing is going to get a lot more fierce. And look at Piatek. As soon as those two start to fight, he's right here. Rasputin must have got himself a cut course penalty because he's dropped 3 seconds back, and he's out of the mix now as these top 3 are going to race for position.
That's tough. He had one of those at VIR that dropped him back smartly. So this is it. It's now gone from a quartet to a trio, and some traffic up front. Nice job there. Just understanding what's happening. I think they got out of the way. Here comes Burkhardt, gonna try it. Hibbett moves over to defend just a little bit.
There was a touch there in the braking zone.
Yeah, and he missed the turn in, and he missed the apex a bit, and that brings Morgan Hibbett right with him. But Piatek gonna try and freeze Morgan just a little bit, can't.
Yeah, Camden and Morgan would really not like Olivier to be here right now. They would love to do this battle amongst themselves, and this third driver poking his nose all up in their business is going to make this a lot more challenging to play offense or defense here in the final 2 laps.
And one thing we know about Piatek, he has no issue being aggressive and fighting hard. So, yeah, I think you're right. God, that hurts me every time just seeing it here. And we got 2 to go, don't we?
Yes.
All right, good, because this is awesome stuff.
And it's going to continue to be awesome stuff here. Quick little check in the back here. Elliott Burton, Luke Law, a little side-by-side down here into turn 11. As Seth Spolman has a great view of them out the windshield. And deep into the brakes, little contact there, and Burton's going to go for a ride.
Wow. And unfortunately, I was just looking, trying to figure it out, and something happened with Court because he's back to 20th.
Yeah.
After an absolutely stellar drive.
A couple seconds off on the previous lap, but I think there was more to it than that. Didn't catch exactly what had happened, but not something good.
Yeah, for sure. And Wan Chi Lin is knocking, he's in 12th, and not too far adrift of Alex McClellan and Newell, so top 10 not out of the realm for him here.
Especially with them battling like this.
Yeah, it's fierce, isn't it? Garrett Nyland has been able to open up a little bit of room, but it's those guys are battling, and that's going to help Wan Chi. And
Morgan trying to make space where there wasn't one, but he is just gearing up for the last lap of racing here, which is about to fire off. And what does Piatek do? Does he draft by Morgan, or does he give him a push? Oh yeah, nudge him into the fist fight. Here we go.
Exactly. That's like having your best buddy, as you said, when the guy throws the punch, push you into it.
Because all he wants to do is take everyone's lunch money, and once they're all beaten, battered, and bruised, he'll go in there and pick their pockets in this last lap.
Absolutely, and here we go, starting that final lap. And you can see Piatek just drops maybe half a car length coming through there, but so did Burkhardt on Hibbett. Can Camden Hibbett hang on for one more lap under the attack of a 3-time champ?
Well, the grin's gone because he's focused now.
Yeah. Ooh, that helps.
This is the dive that Morgan has tried, but he's not close enough to get the overlap this time.
No, I think because he ran wide at the exit of 2, he obviously, you know, in the grass, you don't have the bite when you've got a lot of load in, and he just could not get that run to the inside there.
0.3 of a second. That's going to require a bit of work on Morgan's part, but I think this is going to all come down to that run through 11 and 12, where it almost turned into a crash in the first race.
Yep. Ooh, Hibbett running a little wide there, but you know that's one of those corners that looks like everybody runs wide there and it doesn't impede them a lot. Look what's happened. Piatek has just drifted backward by about a half a second.
Yeah, if I'm Piatek, though, I don't mind being a little bit back. Here comes Burkhardt. Oh, he faked him out, and Hibbett missed the corner just a little bit.
Yep, he threw him the dummy, and Hibbett did kind of, as you said, just missed his turn in a little bit, but fortunately for Hibbett, it wasn't enough where Morgan could actually do anything with it. But now he's in Hibbett's head, and I think that was what that was all about.
It's like the bullet accelerating out of the barrel right now, down into turn 11. Here we go. This is the last 2 corners, Greg. Game on.
Absolutely. Morgan closing right onto the rear deck. Hibbett stays to the right to protect. That could compromise this line, but he flicks it beautifully through that last one. Now it's a drag race. He stays a little low, thinking that Burkhardt might try and cut down. I think Hibbett's got enough. He thinks so. Looks in the mirror with a grin and gets the win by, what's the official, 98 one-thousandths of a second. Piatek about a half-second back, then Rice-Puto well back. But look at this, contact. Schmidt driven into the wall and on his roof.
Up and over.
on his wheels.
Wow. Not what he wanted to see after having such a great start to his race, but he will limp that car back as others come across the start-finish line and finish out race 2 here. I cannot believe he got that thing rolling again, to be honest.
Not me either.
It doesn't want to roll.
But it kind of looks like it's going really well in those right-handers.
Yeah,
and not much at all in the lefts here. Eben, that lonely 5th. Ortiz snuck around on Reyes and nipped him for 6th. Andrew Gilliland up into 8th. Fabulous drive by the young guy.
Yeah, nice top 10 result there for the 91 and just getting some points on the board as well. That will play a big factor when we get to the tail end of the season. Where did you manage to grab points in races you could have otherwise been tangled up in a mess? So that will come back to give him a big help. Let's have a look at our race results here in race 2. Camden Hibbett, 98 thousandths, just under a 10th, and just great defense there in the closing moments.
Oh, it was absolutely fabulous. And that one moment when Morgan, threw him the dummy, Camden bid on it a little bit, but he didn't make a big enough mistake for Morgan to be able to do anything with. And then he had that great run through those final corners. Nicholas Rice-Puto doing what he does when he has issues, earning points. And then again, we talked about that great run for Andrew Gilliland. The other guy who I think showed us what he's capable of, if he can get the qualifying right, Wan Chi Lin fighting his way all the way up into 12th.
I think the same.
Can't wait for.
Sorry, Greg. The same is true, I think, also with Dean Dibdal. The pace he showed was amazing in race 1, but early contact in race 2 relegated him way down the order. But again, comes down to qualifying. He did a nice job at VIR, didn't go so well here. So got to right that ship before he can move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, the problem when you qualify badly is twofold, isn't it? One, you just have a lot of really good drivers you have to try and get through. Secondly, you're much more likely when you're mid to back pack to get caught up in a turn 1 incident, and so that's why. And again, we saw how well Deacon Greenfield ran in that first race, and he got caught out in something and is back in 18th spot. So it happens.
And down the rest of the order here, Joshua Soto, 30th place in race 2. Not the result he was looking for. Same with Trace Hance. And Court Schmidt, 23rd. Man, that race was going a whole lot better before about the halfway point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it surely was. And I mean, Hayden Manis, we've seen some great speed out of, and he too getting shuffled way to the back there. So unfortunate, but I guess that's why we hold the races, isn't it? Things happen.
Sure is. And Olivier Piatek, 2/3 tonight on the podium, double podium evening for the number 62. And man, what an exciting evening it was for Olivier, chasing Morgan Burkhardt and Camden Hibbett. Not quite close enough to capitalize on the dramas at the end of the first race and just lingering in the background in race 2, but that's a great points night for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a solid night. This has been a track I've never really had any pace in, to be honest, and there's not much draft here either, so I was just doing what I could. I never really got close enough to make a safe move on them all race, so, I mean, good points. 2 P3s are solid in the championships. That's good, and just gonna move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. But I am kind of curious. It looked like you could close up on them, but then they had, it looked like just enough to ease away from you a little bit. Were you fighting a little something in this setup? I know you said you generally don't seem to be quick here, but you sure seem to have some pace today.
Honestly, just a little bit of tire overheating at the end there. Really hard. It's a really hard track to sit in the bumper with. And then again, there's no draft to play back in, so you kind of have to be 100% pushed the whole race. So I just kind of killed my tires, and not much I could have done, but still, yeah. Yeah,
well, in lieu of that, two podium finishes, 2/3, as you said, great points, and I always enjoy watching you race.
Thank you. See you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not me, but
I'll be here
watching somehow.
All right.
All right.
I'll see you, Kyle.
We'll see you next week. Morgan Burkhardt comes home second in race 2, but did grab a win in race 1, Morgan, so getting some points on the board here this week, which is always a good thing. And another scrap, another battle with Camden Hibbett, and a pretty fun fight to watch. Only 98 thousandths between you two at the end. What you need to beat Camden coming to the checkers there?
A couple extra horsepower would have been nice, but I mean, this track, if you go for a move and it doesn't quite work, the draft is just not there to pull you back because all the corners are so slow. The draft kicks in at about 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour is when it really kicks in, and you get there like twice a lap for maybe 5 seconds. So you don't get a whole lot of draft. And I tried setting it up. I knew he was going to block going into the final chicane, so I was going to okay, I'm going to set this up. I went a little deep into the first part, and it kind of screwed my run up a little bit out. But I got a better run coming through the second part of the chicane, and then as soon as we hit the banking, the run disappeared, and I was like, okay. It was a really close race. He did well. I mean, it was pretty much carbon copy as it was last season. So a lot of fun with him.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, there was one point during that lap where you threw a little bit of a dummy, and it looked like he bit a bit and missed his apex, but it just wasn't enough for you to get through. And at that point, you had to check up a little bit, and that's what you're talking about with you just can't get the drive back into it, can you?
Exactly, yeah. And I wanted to kind of shade to the inside going into the hairpin on the last lap just to, rattle his cage a little bit, get him spooked. And it worked. I mean, he saw me coming in the mirror and he missed the apex by a bit, but I got down to the apex too fast, a little bit too much momentum, and I had to lift a little bit because I had got down to the curbing and almost turned him a couple laps before. So I really didn't want to do that again. That was not at all intentional. And didn't want it to end ugly. So we had a really, really good battle. And I think one of the big things that I noticed tonight and been noticing in the last couple seasons is that the days of being able to just run away on pure pace, like if somebody fights and you get 0.8 of a gap, the days of running away from the field are gone, right? You have to get a second and a half. You have to be clear of the draft, but to be able to run away now. And that's awesome. The field is so talented and so even at the front of the pack. I've just keep kind of giving away secrets on how to drive this car and how to save tires, and suddenly I'm out of secrets that people don't know. So it's a lot of fun. The field at the front is so tight. I think in qualifying, top 5 was like a 10.5 or something. So
it's insane. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And from our perspective of calling the races, and from anybody watching, the fact that you've taught them everything. Is making this racing incredibly close. You were talking about the contact. I wanted to ask you, in the first race, when Hibbett got that run coming out of the last turn, it looked like you got a little off your rhythm there, and he tapped you, and it sure looked to me like he just lifted, like as if to say, I don't want to win like that. Just the respect now is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we've raced each other enough times. We've had a couple not so great finishes to events, and
yeah.
We've talked a lot about it. We've done a lot of sessions together, and it's kind of like water under the bridge at this point. And where we can race each other with inches of separation, and there'd be no conflict. Like going into there, I knew that he wasn't going to do that move. I could slot in right in front of him, and you see the brake lights on there. I just wanted to park going into the second chicane and really stop up his run, and I forced him to jump over the curb on the inside, and he got loose, and it kind of screwed over his run there. But and that's the thing, that you have to be so on top of the racecraft now to come out on top, because you have to predict that he's going to go to the inside going into the chicane, and predict that I have to stop in the middle of it so that he doesn't get a run out of it, and then predict where all of the cars are going to be, and you have to be playing 3, 4, 5 corners ahead of where you are right now to be able to come out on top. So it's really cool to be racing with all these guys.
Yeah, and you talked about, like you said, how close this front group is. Give us real quickly your take on, what you think of the evolution of Camden, from what he first came in to what he's doing now. I think it's just superb.
Oh yeah, no, I've been very impressed, especially with him in the real world as well. He came in and he was fighting for 15th, 10th, and not quite begging for scraps, but he was going after it in the middle of the pack, and he had some good moves, but as the season progressed, and I think he joined like 2 seasons ago, the next season he was right there. He was on top of it. He was in the back of the front pack, and then he just kept marching forward a spot every week. And then all of a sudden you're fighting with him for wins, and it's like, where did you come from? I've been kind of keeping an eye on you, but you just appeared in the front pack. You have all this pace, and he's got some really incredible racecraft. And the thing that I've been most impressed with him is the way he does interviews and the way he handles himself for how young he is. The first time I talked to him, it was like, oh my God, he's like 19, he's 20, he's like my age, but he's 15 years old. Like he's just now getting into the Spec MX-5 in the real world, and he's doing really well. He's gotten the Mazda scholarship for Spec MX-5, and he keeps getting faster week in, week out. He's learning, he's always open to it, and he handles himself like a young adult, which is really cool. I've been super impressed with his development and how fast things have just snowballed for him.
Yeah, he's got a far more mature head on his shoulders than his age would normally indicate, and I think you're absolutely right. And he's extremely fortunate to have you as a mentor of sorts and to be able to learn from you. So thank you for that, and thank you as always for just some amazing racing.
I am happy to be here and be part of this. I have a blast every week we do this.
Good. Well, we sure have a blast calling you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Morgan. And Camden Hibbett, winner of race number 2, gets it done by .098. And Camden, you basically had to defend about as hard as you've ever had to defend in those last couple of corners, because you knew exactly what move he was going to try to do, and it was probably the one that you tried to do in race 1. It almost worked, but in race 2, you had the upper hand, the advantage. You were able to pick up a win here. Congratulations. Take us through that last lap battle, and actually in both races.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna start with race 2. That was some crazy racing. It's so cool because especially with me and Morgan, really everybody in the front back, but racing Morgan, we can race inches apart and no contact. Obviously there was a little bit of contact in race 1 just because I was an idiot and ran over the curb, but it's just, we can race so close and so clean and have some really great racing. And yeah, just held him off. I knew he was gonna try and go for the move into the right-hander of that final chicane. So I just pushed it really hard out of the fast left to make sure I kept myself out there. And then honestly just kind of managed the gap through the rest of the corner, just waited for him to go, and that's when I went. And he got a little bit of a better run out of there, but it just wasn't quite enough to get me down the straight. And I think it was 98 thousandths of the line, so awesome finish.
Yeah, incredibly good finish. I want to go back to that first race and that nudge, like you said, when you got the curb and then tapped him. It looked to me like maybe you just breathed it for a second to say, I don't want to win that way, and tuck back in behind him. Yes or no?
To an extent, yes. Obviously, I don't want to win by moving people. That's not how I was raised. That's not how I want to race. I did have to lift because I didn't want to turn him. If I didn't make the contact on the exit of that corner, I think that's a little bit of a different story. But I really don't We've had some issues in the past where we've made contact at the end of races, and it's not how either of us want to race. We want to stay clean and finish 1-2 each week. But I definitely don't. We definitely don't want to do that. So I absolutely lifted to make sure I didn't turn him. Second is better than fifth. Second is better than sixth. Whatever. You just kind of have to settle for it at that point. Once you know you've made the mistake, you just kind of have to settle for what you have, and then see what you can hang on to, I guess.
Yeah, we were just watching the replay of that. Man, you did hit that curb, didn't you?
Yeah, you hit that curb with the left side, and it just throws the whole car up in the air, and you just can't really do anything. The only thing you can do is lift to not get into the car on the outside, and that's kind of the decision I made, just to make sure we ended up 1-2.
Yeah, and we love watching. We have your face cam, and in that second race, you were just furious intent when you made that draft by on Morgan. The grin that hit your face was fabulous. And then the next time we came back to you, he was all over you, and it was that furious look again. Just so much fun, to see the emotions, that you guys have as you're going after it here. And man, what a absolutely fabulous couple of battles you guys had.
Yeah, we have some fun. We're all on the same Discord call, and we'll have some fun. And then it gets down to the last 5 minutes, and then it's all serious. Now we're racing for the win. But honestly, the first 10-15 minutes, we're kind of just riding around, kind of having some fun. Tonight, there wasn't a ton of racing because it was just really hard. It was really hard to make moves. There was a little bit of draft, but there's only a little bit of draft on the front stretch. Was a hard move to make into that fast left-hander for turn 1, and then a little bit on the back stretch, and there's not really anything you can do with it getting to the chicane. And it's just really hard to make moves tonight. So some of that fun racing in the middle was there's a little bit less of that tonight, but man, when we got to the final 5-10 minutes, it was game on, and we were all racing super hard. And that's what's cool. Really anybody in that lead pack, we can all race super clean, but it's also really good racing, and I hope it's good racing to watch for sure at home.
Oh, it's spectacular to watch. And you know what? Behind you guys, we had 4 abreast, 5 abreast, like into turn 8. So
wow.
there was some truly nut stuff going on. But you guys up front, as always, just spectacular racing. Thank you so much for that. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you guys. I gotta give a quick shout out to Racing Prodigy. I'm heading there next week to Atlanta Motorsports Park in the Radical SR1. It's gonna be a fun week. So huge thank you to Racing Prodigy for that opportunity. I'm unfortunately gonna be missing my home race at Mid Ohio for this series, which is a bummer, but it's gonna be a blast down at AMP. And then huge thanks to Morgan. I heard his interview. I appreciate all the kind words. It's been a blast racing with you, and it's gonna be an awesome season.
I think so too, absolutely. And congrats on the opportunity to drive a awesome prototype, man. Have fun.
Thank you. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, cool beans.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, and Greg, that's going to wrap things up for today. What a battle. I mean, this racetrack always breeds excitement, but we do have some amazing racing coming up next week. As Camden mentioned, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Greg, that's a favorite for you and me. Unfortunately, you'll be out for that one, but I'll be here, and I can't wait to bring everyone the action again, as always. But Mid-Ohio's up next. What a blast that place is.
It's, to me, when the runoffs were there and then they decided to start moving them around, and believe me, I love all the other tracks that the runoffs went to, but for club racing in a national championship, it's a track where, it doesn't have big enough straights where a huge motor and that kind of money is going to help. It's a driver's track with good speed, flow, and rhythm. It's just a fabulous place. And you're going to have a lot of fun. I, unfortunately, am going to be coming back from overseas. Got a new gig that had the opportunity to fall into my lap, and I'm really happy about that. But I'll miss it for sure. You and Finian or whoever you have work with you will, of course, do an absolutely fabulous job. But I'm going to be upset missing the call at Mid-Ohio for the first time.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. And you mentioned the flow of the racetrack, and I think the passing opportunities there, you get a couple of them throughout the lap, especially that carousel right at the end. I'll bet you we're going to see some exciting moves down in there, Greg. But Homestead-Miami, round 2 of the 2024 Season 2 Championship is concluded. Final thoughts here from Homestead-Miami.
Like we said in the tease at the beginning, even though this doesn't present that draft like some of the drivers were talking about, it's still, no draft and the margin of victory in race 2, 98 1,000ths of a second. It still produces great racing, and we're so fortunate for that. And mostly we're fortunate for Full Send Sims and their support of this championship, their creation of this championship, and also the amazing sims that they build. We have to also have to say a huge thank you to 3P Logistics. They have been with us right from the off, and we are so fortunate for that, as well as Final Turn Motorsports and all of their support, and of course Wine Country Motorsports. Want to remind everybody before we sign off here that this Thursday night, 2 days hence, is the group practice at Mid-Ohio. You're going to want to join in, take advantage of that if you plan on racing there on the next Tuesday night. And from here, what has proven once again to be a fun and fascinating Homestead-Miami Speedway race, I'm Greg Creamer for Kyle Heyer, Finian DeCuna, and everything that he does. Thank you so much, and enjoy Kyle's call from Mid-Ohio next week.